So, I thought I'd do a video today talking about these two things that I have here. This is my pedal board with traditional analog pedals and some digital ones on there, but pedals. And then the modeler with the fractal and how I decide which to use and when. So the thing is with these modelers now, they're really good. I can make the modeler sound pretty convincingly as good as a really good amp and pedals. And for me, there's some criteria that I apply, which is what I'll discuss today, is when to take which and why. Because both have uses and both have advantages and disadvantages. So let's look at the first one. When I have to fly somewhere for a gig. I don't bring the pedals anymore on that. It's always now just the fractal. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first one is that I'm sick of backline. I turn up to gigs, I get there and the backline is some amp that's not working or it's not appropriate. You can't get the sounds you need. You just end up hating the gig. I just can't have that anymore. So it's just the fractal. I recently had a gig in Auckland. I turned up and the amp was pulsing. It was almost new, but it sounded like it had a really low volume tremolo, like 25% tremolo, just kind of going. It was really bizarre. So they ran another power source to the amp, and of course it stopped. I thought, great. 2 minutes before the show was about to start. We're talking nearly 2,000 people at this gig, full orchestra, band, everything. I play a note and the tremolo's happening again. So I take my fractal for those always, because it's portable. And this is how I do it. I have this bag, and it's a Qantas bag, and in that I put my modeler. I just wrap it in a bit of foam to sort of protect it, but that goes in there, and I carry it on the plane. I've got room for some leads. This is just a cheap Qantas bag. I picked this up for $10, and that's what I do when I go on airlines. In New Zealand, you can't really carry your guitar on board. Sometimes you can get away with it, most of the time not. You have to check your guitar. So I check my guitar in a flight case, and then I carry on the fractal because I can just put that up the top. I know, those that live in the US or in Europe, you can carry guitars on more often than not. It's not the case here, especially with our airlines, especially if it's a smaller plane, but even in the bigger planes, the Air New Zealand's just not very accommodating with that. Gigs. Two types of gigs to think about. Is there a PA or is there no PA? If there's no PA system, then I'll take the pedal board and an amp. And the reason for that is that when I have a gig that's in a small club, I play this little club in town called Hashigozaki that I really like playing at. It's awesome. When I'm there, I have to bring something to amplify anyway. I can't rely on the monitors or in-ears or that kind of thing. I need an amp of some sort. So at that point, if I'm using a modeler and an amp, I might as well just use an amp and pedals. I find that too, especially little clubs, you often need to change things quite drastically and quite quickly. The rooms can be boxy and boomy sounding. They can sometimes be really warm, overly warm, sometimes overly bright. So, just being able to change things quickly, which I can do on the fractal as well. But with pedals, and an amp, it's just all right there and it's super quick and easy. And as I said, I have to carry an amp for the modeler anyway. I might as well just bring a real amp. So that's a case where I will use pedals every time and an amp. What about a gig with a big PA system and it's outdoors? Well, that comes down to a couple of things. Can I get parking nearby? If not, fractal in the bag and away I go. What sounds do I particularly need? I'm not a really complex kind of player in terms of sounds. It might seem like it is. Most of the time, like a clean sort of Fender model, and then some sort of pedals on top of that. Usually a couple of overdrives, one sort of bluesy, one sort of crunchy, maybe a third like lead, Steve Lukather type tone, and then some delay sounds. So that's actually how I set this up. Clean kind of Fender thing, which I can operate here. Drive, delay. I have a reverb which I leave on all the time, maybe a chorus, a tremolo, a couple of things like that. That's it. And anything specific. So, bigger gigs, a mixture of the both. For recording sessions, if I'm doing YouTube videos like in here, it's almost always the fractal. It's just easier now. I can have my monitor speakers on and not have to worry about putting headphones on so that it's not interfering with microphones, all that kind of stuff. I can just, like this, it's not interfering with my microphone here. So YouTube videos, it's all the fractal now, unless I'm demoing an amp or something that might need a specific kind of amp. But when it comes to recording, if it's late at night, I'll use the fractal. If it's something I need to do quickly, I'll use the fractal. If I'm recording something, I do a lot of session work in here in the studio. I'll show you around the space a little bit. You can see my guitars over here. There's my pedals here. A couple of different instruments. Here's my amp that I use the most at the moment. It's the Victoria Bassman. My speakers, lights, everything. It's all set up. So when I'm recording, if it's daytime and I think I can crank an amp up, then I will use a real amp. Most of the time I'll just use the fractal. If it's late at night, I can just put headphones on and use the fractal and get it done. The clients don't know the difference. They really don't. As long as it sounds good, they don't care how you got there. So it's really down to what makes me happy. And that's, I'm trying to create a certain tone and a certain sound that suits the particular song that I'm doing. So I use both for recording, is the short answer. And then theatre shows. This is an interesting thing. I do theatre shows quite a bit, and that's really changed. I used to bring an amp, now I don't. Now it's all the fractal. I bring the fractal and I just go direct. The last show I did, which was Wicked, by the way, I'm still on the AX8. I'm looking at upgrading to an FM9. As soon as I can get my hands on one, I will. But this thing's a beast. It still sounds really good, and it's rock solid. I've never had a single problem with this. It always works. Because that's the other thing too. Reliability. There's nothing worse than having gear not working. Whereas this always just works. It's rock solid, all metal. Well, maybe not the knobs, but that's about it. Right? But theatre shows. So I did Wicked recently, and I took this and I bought my little Laney IRTX little speaker, little 8-inch speaker, and just faced it towards me to try and get a bit more sustain, get it to excite the strings a little bit. And as soon as I did that, the sound guy goes, "What are you doing, man? Turn your speaker off. It's really loud." Man, I barely had it on. It was just like, that's just the way it's gone. They don't want to hear any guitar coming out of the pit at all, which is just crap, but it is what it is. Granted, we had a string section over there, but it was nowhere near as loud as the percussionist or the drum kit. Those guys were like smacking the heck out of it. And then so anyway, theatre shows, it seems to be all gone this way. Kempers are very popular. I've done a few shows where they've provided Kempers that are all programmed up, and that's fine. But I'll take this in that situation. So you've got the modeler and the thing and some kind of speaker, or I use the monitor that's provided, or I use in-ears. If I'm in the pit, I'll use headphones because you're not moving, or then pedals and amp. They both have their uses, but it's more and more becoming this. Just for practical reasons. I mean, parking in this city is really diabolical. But also, volume issues. Amps, they want to be at a sweet spot. Whereas this always has a sweet spot wherever I set it. And that to me is huge. I can get all the sounds I said out of here. So let's try to do a few. I'm going to do a couple of different sounds. Let me know if you can tell which one is the amp, and which one's the fractal? I bet you cannot pick it. Maybe you can. Let me know in the comments below. So here's your first sound. Is this amp or modeler? Okay, sound 1. Okay, so leave a comment below, amp or modeler. Here's your second sound. Okay, thoughts? Leave them in the comments below. This one more sound, amp or modeler. Let me know which one you think it is. I'd be curious to see if you can pick it. Great, well thanks so much for watching. I hope that's been useful. I think about these things a lot. Gear has to work for me. I just want to get on with the music, so I want to get this stuff out of the way. This allows me to do that. If I have good gear that just works, then I can get on with the music. So hopefully this has been useful. Hopefully you've found some things out of this that you think, well, it's kind of interesting. That's a different take on something, or maybe it's something that might help make your decision up about which to use, this or this kind of setup. Remember to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, that's really useful and much appreciated. It's probably the best thing you can do is just hit the subscribe button. Costs you nothing, takes you 2 seconds. Like the video if you liked it. If you don't, then all good. Alright, take care. See ya.